Hi, I'm Mike Cox, the statewide Bighorn Sheep Program Coordinator for Nevada Department of Wildlife, and here to give our Nevada State Desert Bighorn Sheep report. This is a picture of our Mount Jefferson Bighorn herd. It's the highest elevation herd in the state, and it summers on these high plateaus at over 11,000 feet. And the herd's doing so well, we're initiating a U-hunt this fall, 2021, to meet population objectives. This map shows the distribution of all bighorn sheep in Nevada, remnant herds, those that are reintroduced, and some of the pioneering herds. The purple, or excuse me, the pink are all the remnant herds that have been there for thousands of years. The purple are reintroduced herds by us, and the orange are desert bighorn herds that pioneered on their own. You can see our desert herds are all south of Interstate 80. Some of the pioneering herds are pretty impressive, to the point we are planning or considering to build water developments to support their new herds. But unfortunately, a few of them we wish never happened because they set up shop too close to domestic sheep and have created a link between the domestics and other bighorn herds that previously had reasonable separation. So depending on your definition of a distinct herd, we have approximately 70 desert bighorn herds in Nevada. This slide shows our aerial survey results since 1990. Green area depicts the sample size, which has been trending down since the highs in the mid-2010s. Lamb ratio in red has been slowly trending down since 2000, as you can see, and we actually hit the lowest recorded statewide lamb ratio average. The blue line is the ram ratio. As we know, it's always biased low, but it's also been trending down. Our populations definitely have been growing with our translocation program. So this graph is from 1965 of all three of our subspecies. We did reach 10,000 desert bighorn in 2017, but we have now since had declines in those herds, and now we're below 10,000, approximately 9,900. Next few slides are going to summarize our last 2 years of bighorn sheep, primarily ram harvest stats and long-term trends. So the number of total tags we had this last year in 2020 was 315 ram tags, and the pie chart is just showing what percent of those are from reintroduced herds versus remnant. And probably about 10 years ago, we surpassed over half of our tags coming from reintroduced herds, with, again, the success of our reintroduction program. Slide showing resident and non-resident hunter demand. It's measured by unique applicants, and it's been growing exponentially. We have a 90-10 split for tag quotas for resident and non-residents, but yet you'll see that the non-resident applicants actually surpassed residents in 2016, and so now we're pushing 12,000 non-residents wanting about 25 tags, 20 late maybe 30 tags. So that's a huge amount of interest still and growing. This slide shows the total harvest over time since 1952, when our first official season was open in Nevada. And we peaked in 2017 at approximately 300 rams harvested. And now we've backing off a little bit over the last few years. Graph showing the blue, which is the average age of the rams, or excuse me, the red is average age and the blue is average Boone and Crockett score. The low dip, as you can see in 1996 in the bottom center of the graph, was the first year we went to an any ram criteria. But since then, it's been growing steadily, and we are now this last year averaging a 6.8 years of age of all of our rams harvested, and a similar trend in the Boone and Crockett score in blue, trending upward and pretty much leveling off around 153, 154 the last decade. All right, the next few slides are going to show our work in our statewide disease surveillance efforts, the exposure of Mycoplasma ovi pneumoniae in our herds, either detected through ELISA for antibodies of previous exposure or PCR of an active infection. And they're from either live animals captured for surveillance or hunter harvest. As you can see, there's only been a handful of herds that have no positive, or what we consider clean or herds. It's been a huge investment to sample all of our herds. And what sometimes is confusing is some of the non-positive or clean herds are very close to others with Mycoplasma. And it's kind of hard to believe there hasn't been spillover yet. This slide is the same desert bighorn polygons, but the colors are coded to population trend, with green increasing, yellow stable, pink declining, and red severely declining. So if you take your eyes and look at the outline of the herds and start at the top on the north end of the state, and let's say look at the black outline polygons. If you drag your eyes down south, you're going to see all of those black bordered herds, which are remnant herds, or excuse me, reintroduced herds. Our reintroduced herds are the black border, that all the colors of the population trends exist. And actually the same is true for our pioneering herds that are yellow border. There's herds going every which way in terms of increasing and declining, stable. And the same is true as the unbordered remnant herds, also showing a variability of up and down population trends. And there's many covariates that have contributed to the herd response in the face of MOVI exposure, whether it's the strain type, forage, quality, quantity, water availability, time since initial spillover, and so many other variables that have contributed to population declines and some populations recovering from Mycoplasma. Water developments have always been an important part of the population increases in Nevada associated with our translocations. Due to severe drought conditions we had last year, in fact, we had some herds that didn't see a drop of water for over 6 months. we needed to do an unprecedented water haul to many of our guzzlers in the Mojave Desert region. So just a quick overview of the stats from our water haul last year. Time frame was August, October, and November. 14 herds involved, included water transferred by both pumpkins under helicopters and groundwater pumping. 27 guzzlers were filled. 7 of them had 2 separate water hauls just because the Bighorn were drinking them dry. And all of that totaled 104,000 gallons delivered. Last slide is one that's near and dear to my heart. As many of you know, I was involved with the development, production of the Horse Rich Dirt Poor documentary a couple years ago. And I put this slide together to try to provide appreciation for how many horses we have in relation to all of our big game ungulates in the state. So really, we've got a totally out of control horse and burro population. We're currently at 60,000 horses and burros in Nevada. The graph compares the total biomass equivalent of every native ungulate in the state: bighorn, pronghorn, mule deer, and elk, all of our big game species. It takes approximately 5 native ungulates that average about 155 pounds if you were to average all the weight of male and female native ungulates to equal 1 horse that's approximately 800 pounds. And the comparison is just body weight. Doesn't even include foraging strategies and water consumption differences between the two. But you'll see on the graph that beginning in 2014, horse and burro biomass exceeded that of all native ungulates in Nevada. And by 2020, this past year, all the horses and burros are 2.5 times greater than all big game ungulates combined. We're approaching an environmental apocalypse in the next decade. It's so sad out there. Conditions are severely bad, especially with the drought conditions. So I want to thank all of our passionate Bighorn sheep biologists, dedicated wildlife health staff, our supportive game division chief, Mike Cox, a couple key researchers that have been working a lot with us the last several years: Kezia Manlove, Tom Besser, and all the great staff at Waddle. Our habitat biologists were critical in helping us do our water hauls and always looking out for bighorn sheep and projects that are out there on the landscape. And we've just got a ton of awesome sportsmen and bighorn NGOs that support us each year. And give a shout out to our public land managers that work with us in ensuring bighorn sheep have a place to live on public land. Thank you. Take questions now.